The love song for Ukraine sculpture that's on the figure on the cot lying down, that was in the opening gallery for the clay studio 2 years ago, I think. Anyway, she was put in the back of the room while they were setting up the rest of the work. And I think the janitor came in and said, "You need to tell that woman lying down, she can't just rest here. We're trying to set a show up. So would you..." Anyway, I thought I took that as a high compliment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you have a favorite piece in the show, Tip?
Well, I guess really it ought to be this piece, and but I so like always the diplomat, but this piece is the most sort of considered of all of them, and I made it thinking that I would. Oopsie, here I'll go back there. Anyway, I made it with the idea of there's a show that's going on in Utah for the NCCA conference called What is Real and What is Not. Anyway, so I sort of wanted you to think about the stories that ventriloquists get going with their puppets and how often you relate more to the puppet and you just often they're in conflict, the puppet and the ventriloquist. So I wanted to do the conflict, and then you have, your empathy goes to and you sort of root for the dummy, and yet the dummy, so it's a little bit like Pinocchio, has a life of its own, and then it leaves, and you're rooting, but then in this instance, she has no life without the ventriloquist. So,
so they're kind of one and the same.
Yeah. So you can't go there, even though you emotionally want to go there, but you can't.
Yeah.
Irrationally, you can't.
When I see this piece, I think a lot about like our inner monologues, like the fights that we have with ourselves.
Yeah.
Or like even in this case, the doll seems a little bit older than the ventriloquist does. And like, are they the same? Is one like a mother and one, like, what's the relationship? Like, even there's all of this narrative that you can kind of conceive.
Yeah.
And it's this wonderful storyline that comes out of it, but then you're like, wait, but what is happening here? It's wonderful. It's just this slightly confounding problem.
It is slightly confounding. It is. And I kind of like that, and then let the public take the narrative where they want to, because it's sort of up for grabs in a way. But there's definitely this conflict, and yet she has to be the creator of it, just so there it is.
What's the title of this piece?
This is called Enough. It's sort of like enough. And you don't know who really is saying that. Her hair is always coming out.
There's several dolls in this show.
Mm-hmm. I was interested in the whole sense of the dummy and the ventriloquist and dummies and imagining what they would say if they were animated. And like this one is just the head of the dummy. She's called Casino Night. And I like that she's getting all dolled up to go out on
I love her hairpins.
This big night, right? And so I had a feeling maybe if she didn't sell, I'd get her back from the show and make a whole dummy body for her, because I kind of like these dummy bodies, because you're not held to any like anatomical standards, and you can be kind of loose and funky, kind of like this guy.
Yeah.
And
with his little small legs,
those tiny little legs, right? You can distort up all that you want to, and this one's, I really like this guy too. It's between him and her, because I love that he's left with is called Always the Diplomat. He's left with always trying to find peace between this faction and this faction. And they're acting out and acting up, and he's the straight man. And it's, my father had that role in our family. So this is Dad, but my dad was actually really handsome. So this isn't my dad.
So it's not a portrait of your father.
No, but he always was the one that just would hear the different, arguments and then just sort of try and make sense. So he was always the diplomat. And anyway.
You've been talking about, I think almost as long as I've been working with you, you've been talking about the idea of doing these ventriloquist pieces. And it's really cool to see it come to life. I also love the connection between the new drawings that you've been doing and the ceramic works. How did the drawings start?
I did it, I just wanted to start as an experiment. Like that one was, actually I made a small little head sculpture of him with a rubber glove tied to his head, and it was called Do-Rag or something. But I liked his face so much, and I took him up to Pilchuck with me and made a couple of glass molds of his face. Then I decided, no, I need to really draw him in. So I decided, I always drew as a kid, in 18 I did a bunch of drawings, and then I went, I wonder if I could do it again and just do some pencil drawings, and it was also because I was so burned out with King, that show, I couldn't face doing any more clay.
Yeah, and I'm just going to tell folks briefly, so King was a show that we did with Tip in 2019? When what, 2020?
2020 maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, well, I'm going to have to look now. The pandemic has my time all warped. But, and the central piece of that show was five times larger than life. I mean,
at least three times.
Huge ceramic bust of a king, maybe slightly referential to the political state of the world, but not in any way a portrait of a political figure. In fact, it might resemble your husband a little bit.
Kenny on a really bad day.
But yeah, that was just such a massive undertaking to accomplish that piece and that show. And yeah.
And I just should say that you guys, the gallery made this incredible ziggurat for him to sit on. You went all out, and so appreciate that.
I know, we tried for a while to figure out if we could use that for anything else, we took it apart.
Dear.
It's okay. But okay, so you were burned out on doing the huge, massive ceramic works.
Yeah, and I don't know whether it was just that plus kind of feeling a little at large, kind of where do I go from here and what I want to make a piece about. And so I didn't get back into the studio for a long time, 6 to 9 months. I just avoided it. And then I thought I have to do something. I'm going to go nuts, because a lot of unstructured time and me don't go well together. So I thought, I'll draw. Let's just try some drawing, but great big drawing. So that's the first piece I did, and I just decided I just scribble and scribble.
Wow.
And
it definitely doesn't look like scribbles.
And
it's so incredibly lifelike. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I just wanted you to be really, I just wanted him to just be in your face. And
I love how worked the surface is, and the graphite lines, and the texture that occurs is unbelievable.
He was a real physical drawing. He was real physical, and then I got these great erasers, and I was just pummeling the surface with these erasers, and then going back with the smear, and then coming in with the drawing. I mean, it was such a physical thing to make a lot of these drawings. Wow. So anyway, that's the story of. That was the first one, and then this is pretty bad paper. So Phoebe, my sister, said, you got to get better paper. So we sent away for really good, all the rest are on really good paper. This isn't terrible paper, but it's not at the level that this paper is. Anyway, so that's how it started, and I didn't want any shoulder. I just wanted these heads, these giant heads looking at you.
Looking right at you.
Looking at
you. Like I love we hang everything at, kind of eye level for an average height person, and they are like right at your eye to eye with them. It's so cool.
I know. I like this guy. I really love this guy because you don't quite know, is he just plain scared? Is he swallowing really hard? Is he heard something? I like how off that eye is a little bit myopic or something. And so you feel a little, he feels vulnerable to me. And the shape of his head, I really like that too. And that wrinkle skin.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I love the way that you, both in the drawings and in the ceramic work, so accurately capture emotion. I think I know it's something you think about a lot, just from having talked to you about it previously, but it's so striking the way that you're able to convey an emotional state in your work, and like to be able to confront a sculpture that is so lifelike and so vulnerable in its emotional state is such a special thing. I mean, I think it's what makes hyperrealism, in your case, so incredibly successful. It's like it creates this really profound feeling of empathy, I think.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm really glad. That's what I would want more than anything, is that you go there, you go into these characters, and especially her. I had such a strong feeling about when Ukraine was invaded and all the refugees were put into subways to just sort of, and anywhere they could get away from the disaster. And I thought, and there was, and I played the harmonica myself as a little girl. My grandmother gave me a harmonica. I played, and I just thought, that's what she would do to remind herself of her home. So she's playing a love song for her country. And that's what I would, and then she just walks around, and they put her on a cot because they don't have beds set up. They just put her really anywhere. And I just tried to imagine how awful that would be. Yeah.
It's very tender. It's very raw and emotional, and it's very, it's striking when you encounter the work in this show and you have that feeling, and like the time to be able to observe so closely the qualities of a person, which you don't get to do, except for maybe the people that you're closest to in the world. Like you just don't get to spend that much time like looking at an emotion and not reacting to it, not immediately like being in conversation with that person, or, just observing it is such a special thing the opportunity that you create with your work. And I think it's really unique.
Oh, thank you, Sarah. Thank you. I really want you to go there. She is very sweet, and I just keep wanting to get that, in the sculpture, all the way through the painting of her and the decision to what her hair would be in this headscarf. And I can't tell you how many decisions went into the headscarf. choosing the correct headscarf for her that would put her there. And of course it had to be blue hair and yellow.
Of
It
course.
had to be that. And so, I don't know. There's just, I'd even make the feet dirtier if I get her home again. I'd make them dirtier. But, I mean, that's what I think so much about is nuance in facial expression.
Yeah.
I think about that. I really think about that a lot, and that's important to me.
How, I know you don't always like this question, but the self-portraiture in your work, I mean, this is something that people observe all the time in your work. You often do busts or figures that bear a striking resemblance to you.
No, they're
And there's one piece in this show, I think, that really clearly does.
Yeah.
You want to talk about this piece and kind of how you think about self-portraiture? And
Well, this piece is called Her Words. So it's a piece about being one with this message of the guru, really, trying very hard to listen to the direction is really what it is, of your spiritual teacher. So that's what it's really.
I love how her ears are kind of red, like drawing your attention to like she's hearing something.
Listening.
Yeah, she's listening like so hard.
I know.
Kind of.
I'm hoping so, because I did a piece a long time ago before graduate school, and it was, so ears have always been very interesting to me, and it's sort of like, and I made a piece a long time ago of this giant ear, and I almost wanted to really make it out of clay, this whole nest. So this guy is building a nest, but it's also an ear. So that's where he wanted to lie, is into a listening place. And that was the metaphor for his life and direction. And so that's what, this is another version.
Yeah. I think it's so, I mean, that you're just talking about that work that you were doing in graduate school. And I mean, for a long time, you were doing work that I think would be categorized as like surrealist or, you know, like, and relief and more about like metaphor and allegory. And how did you transition from doing that work to doing the hyper-realistic work?
I did so many wall pieces in relief, you're right. And I love surrealism, and I love what you can do you can create such an environment, and that can just lay the groundwork for a surreal narrative, kind of. And then I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't face doing anymore. And so I said, I must realize these pieces three-dimensionally.
Did you have experience building with clay in that way? How did you learn to do that? That's unbelievable.
I just sort of go, well, how hard could it be? It's really hard. And I had to go back to school, because you can do a relief piece, a bas-relief figure, and get away with it without knowing a whole lot about anatomy. And then to build a three-dimensional piece, it's like, oh, are you kidding? No, I have to go back to school. So I did. I went back to school and worked with Mike McGrath at Gage. And we had models, and I had to, really look carefully, and he'd come around and slash things. And so I had to learn. And then I got a ton of anatomy books, and then I'd work as much as possible from life, because then you can really get all the way, but sometimes no. So I started with 3D busts, and worked live with those, and then often went to myself. Yeah. Because I'm available. I'm really handy. So I could use myself as a model, and Kenny took pictures and pictures and pictures and pictures all the way around, and then again and again. So I could keep figuring
referring back and
yeah. But it was a big leap because I really didn't know. I didn't know.
Yeah.
And so I still don't know. I still could take a sculpture class or two. And
or teach a sculpture class or two.
Well, I could take one too. Anyway, that's a story. So it started kind of, I started with little doll figures. You remember those?
Yeah, sure.
Then it got bigger and bigger, then went to busts, and then went to half figures, and then bigger and bigger.
Wow. How about this drawing over here? Because in a way, this actually kind of reminds me of some of the early bas-relief. I mean, not exactly, but sort of bringing in these doodle elements that are, they're not from life. They're...
No. Did you ever see that piece? It was a piece, Letter to God.
I don't know that I did, Tip.
Well, I didn't show it here. Unfortunately, I showed it in New York, but it got sold. It allowed me, it was this girl leaning over her leg, high realism.
Sure, drawing on the leg, of course,
drawing
yes.
on the leg.
Yeah,
and
kind of doing the tattoos on herself. I totally know that piece,
yeah. So anyway, it was cool because then I could include all these doodles that I have never been able to incorporate. And so I thought, well, maybe I could do this and incorporate them in this drawing because my math is just so bad. And this is the facial expression that kind of gets it. And it starts in here, all of this little doodling, and then sort of explodes out of math and cartoons. And I don't know, I kind of like it.
I love it. I think I love the falling pie piece a lot.
Well, then I thought...
And the way that you, it goes from these sort of algorithms and mathematical symbols to, wait, that mathematical symbol slightly resembles a profile of a face. And you can totally see how you get from one place to the next and the way your brain might be working. It's really fun.
Okay, I'm glad because this is it's kooky. I mean, it's just so kooky and I just let myself do it. And then I thought, oh no, this is a precedent. Now I have to do it to all of these more serious drawings. And then I go, but they don't really call for it. And I'm not inspired to do it, but maybe a lot of shoulds and decisions but I did put little hands above
I
her.
saw the little hands on that one. It's a beautiful little addition. And this one actually has a little bit of color in it too.
Yeah, she just needed a little peach, because she's a little cafeteria woman. She's so sweet. And then that's where the prayer before the food is served.
I love it.
Yeah, so.
Oh, Tip, thank you so much. This is such an extraordinary show, and it's really such a treat to have it in the gallery, and congratulations. I'm happy you're feeling so inspired and back in the studio and making such extraordinary work for all of us to enjoy.
Well, Sarah, thank you, dear. And thank you for letting me show with you.
Of course.
I know, really. It's
so awesome.
It's such a treat. Oh, I shouldn't touch this thing.
Okay, so the show is up starting today, September 5th, and runs through the end of the month. It's called Behind the Scenes, and I hope you all will come and see it. Congratulations, Tip. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Bye.